Hey, everybody, are you ready? Because I am ready for this spaghetti. Yes, I am ready for this spaghetti. So get ready, sit back, relax, and take off your slacks and get ready for Thursdela Thursday, baby. Yeah.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Godzilla, Godzilla, Godzilla.
Hey, everybody, how you doing for Thursdela Thursday? I am your host with the most that is covered in ghost, Hebro77, along with my co-host, the rad dad that is dressed in plaid. And don't make him mad, or he'll punch you all the way to Baghdad. Good old Keith's dad. Woo!
I love your intros.
Hey, man.
I should just record your intros and just use them.
Sound bites, man. Sound bites make for the best. The best. I'm telling you.
Everyone's been mentioning Captain Picard. You know how many times backstage Heroes mentioned Captain Picard, and here's Go Kart Bob mentioning Captain Picard.
Yes. He's been referencing like crazy. Let me see if I can read some of the comments here. Like he was talking about cooking his steak, and oh my goodness, I love steak. DD74 said he was cooking his steak, and then Sweet Connie Joe was like, steak tastes better grilled. And then Go Kart Bob goes, steak, wait, let me do the Picard voice. Steak, use the replicator, number one. And then Earl Grey, make it so. And then Go Kart Bob, of course, goes, that is my best Captain Picard imitation, LOL. I don't know. I just imagine that's how he talks.
My favorite steak is cooked on cast iron.
Of course.
My favorite everything is cooked on cast iron. Yeah. I mean,
but can you cook a grilled cheese sandwich on cast iron?
Absolutely, you can.
All right.
I do hamburger helper on cast iron. Everything. I cook everything in cast iron.
Oh man,
just literally everything.
That's so great. I'll tell you what. I bet it's all well seasoned too, because your seasoning stays in your cast iron.
Yeah, and I've just started using, as a collector, there's some cast iron I don't want to use. The stuff that's like, 90 years old. I get very worried that I'm using it because it's like an $80 pan, and I just started using it like last month, the $80 pan. And oh my goodness, it's an amazing pan. And if anyone wants to look it up, it's a Griswold number 8 marked. It's a large logo, and it's so light. It's a very light pan. It's a little heavier than aluminum, but it's light. But my goodness, it cooks so well.
It cooks so well. When you eat your food out of it, it'll ring your bell.
And yeah, of course you bake a whole chicken in cast iron pan.
Oh man,
I have a number 10. It's 12 inches wide, and yeah, you can throw a whole chicken in there. Of course, put some potatoes, onions. Oh my goodness, it's fantastic.
This sounds good. Sounds really good. I'm getting hungry, Keith.
I'm getting hungry too.
Man, I wish I had all that food. I had raviolis today. I bought some frozen raviolis the other day, and I cooked them, and they were all right. They weren't bad. I mean, not as good as homemade, of course, but what is? But I mean, like, do some sauce on them, and do my own professional garlic in there, and yeah. I mean, you want something to eat, you just eat something that you have to eat when you're eating something,
Interesting question. What is the difference between professional garlic and amateur garlic?
Amateur garlic is stuff that you buy at the store. Professional garlic is grown straight out of my garden, baby. Yeah.
Oh, grown out of your garden.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. That is professional. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Fair. That was a good answer.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. So tonight we have to cover some serious topics. We really do. We've been slacking on that here lately. Me and Sadji killed it the other day, but you and I, brother, we're going to get into it tonight, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You brought on cynical Keith's dad to talk about serious stuff. This is going to be awesome. I can already tell.
But before we even get started, let's give this room a little shout out, shall we?
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious, we already mentioned Go Kart Bob.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation about you today, Go Kart Bob. We were playing around in one of the streams, and you made a comment in one of the streams about the movie Jailbait, and so we had a conversation about you. Hi.
And of course, as always, we got sweet barbecue sauce, Connie Joe.
Yum.
Yeah. Wait, no, that's not her name. See, you got me thinking about food, and I'm thinking about that sweet. What's that called? Sweet Casey's barbecue sauce or whatever. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, sweet Connie Joe, and then of course, as always, you got Michael Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine.
Like the way you did that. Michael Fontaine. And DD74, of course.
Does DD74 have a thing?
Have a what?
Does he have a? Do I have to say something for DD74? I forget.
DD74 is a whore? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
no,
dang.
DD74 likes to eat off the floor. How about that?
And he goes down to 718 subscribers.
No, man. I like to eat off the floor. Not off the floor itself. I put a plate on there first and then eat off that plate, on the floor. But do you remember what it was like being a kid and you would literally sit in front of the TV and eat off the floor?
Oh, of course. All the time. You would prefer it. Yes.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, man.
Because I wasn't allowed on the couch with food.
Right. But my grandparents, to this very day, they still have those giant TV trays that you set up, and you can put your Visine on there. You put your Kleenexes, the remote control, of course, and TV guide, and all the stuff that people used to put on those things.
Yeah, my grandmother still has those. Absolutely.
Yeah. We used to set them up around Thanksgiving time. I remember that. That was the big thing. Get in the closet, get out the TV trays. All right. So, your ashtray. Yeah, I had an uncle. He used his as an end table. I mean, he liked that so much.
Table.
Yeah. Now, I'm talking about the tall TV trays, not ones that went on your lap, the tall ones.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I don't think you could find those anymore. I mean, you could still find the ones that go in your lap, but I don't think you could find the ones that you can use as actual tables.
You just go to some grandma's garage sale. They always have them.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that, Michael Fontaine. You call out the file of fire, and she pops up literally 2 minutes later.
He's got the power. Man, I'll tell you, I really enjoyed the movie we watched not the movie, but the company. And did you know, by the way, here's a little bit of trivia for everyone out there. About 95% of my jokes during that movie were fart jokes.
You know, every once in a while we get a movie that I don't think is going to be very good, and then it's amazingly good. And then there are movies I think are going to be amazingly good, and they end up not being very good at all. Like, for instance, I actually thought, what was it? The Cosmos War of the Planets. I was a little disappointed with that movie. I thought that was going to be an awesome movie, and I ended up ending it going, it just wasn't a very good movie. Like the movie we just did, that was pretty awesome. I mean, it was hilarious. It was a hilarious movie. That guy was such a prick. The whole movie.
Man, yeah, the guy with the cigar. Yeah.
He was such a prick the whole movie.
But yet everyone loved him.
Everyone loved him. And he sacrificed himself pointlessly at the end, and people felt bad about him.
Yeah. But he called everyone idiots and dumbasses. Well, not dumbasses, but he put down everyone. Like everyone.
And he kept changing his mind. Attack him, don't attack him, attack him, don't attack him. Yeah, that was a good movie.
I have so much technology, but I'm gonna ride on the floor. Yeah.
Why the guy rode on plants and the floor? This guy was a nut. And why would you carry a cigar and not carry a lighter with you? Why?
Yeah. I think a lot of people back then, like, they used to just chew on their cigars.
Yeah, he did for like 30 minutes of the movie before he asked for the first light. Mm-hmm. He just kind of had the cigar just as a prop.
And, that's kind of the way people did back then, too.
Yeah. I quick announcement is the movie coming up. I haven't really told anyone yet. But I think maybe but I'm not sure if Rav knows, there is a part in it in the next movie we got coming up that is incredibly racist. Like it just in your face racist. And they don't mean to, well, not that they don't mean to be, it's just that was the time back then. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait for that scene to pop up when we watch it on Saturday.
Speaking of the time, place and time, like I was watching the Jeffersons the other day, and they just used that word just like saying hello to people. I mean, it was so hilariously just hilarious because it was only the black people who said it, but it was still sort of like, wow, I can't believe they got by with so much back then. And what was funny was George Jefferson said something crazy like he usually does, but then Louise looks at him and goes, "N-word, please." Well,
the problem is with the black and white movies is that you don't realize it, but when you're lighting up someone's face, you have to use their natural color to determine the lighting. And so the lighting for anyone who wasn't white was very different, to the point where in this movie it's the same thing where the lighting doesn't fit them well, and so they put a little makeup on. It's just so bad, so bad. But anyway, no more spoilers.
Now that's going to be on Saturday, right?
That's Saturday. Yeah, JLB. Right.
I will definitely be there. I'll be there. I might be a little late, but I'll be fashionably late.
Of course.
I think that's
no one. The only people who are on time are Michael Fontaine and myself. I've just come to that conclusion. The only people on time are Michael Fontaine and myself.
Well, I think Saji's bad habits rubbed off on me. So, But we have a lot to talk about and like serious stuff to talk about. And when we're done here, we're going to go over an Odyssey, and that's where we're going to talk about the real shit.
Oh, okay.
Like, I like to begin my mornings by putting my not iPhone, but what's the other business called? I forget what it's called. MP3 player. but I put it in my ears and then I crank it up as loud as I can, and I listen to Real American, Hulk Hogan's theme song, you know. And that pumps me up. And I even do air guitar. I'm like dun 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 dun. Dun. I get into it and I get shit done. I get my dishes done. I get my vacuuming done. I get my garbage taken out. I make my unsweetened tea with lemon. I get shit done, baby. I get shit done listening to Real American.
The song when I want to get into the mood, the song that I listen to is the Believe It or Not song.
Oh,
you remember from The Greatest American? Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free.
I watched that show the other day, and everyone in that show was an absolute dick to that guy. Like, even his son.
Even his suit.
Yeah, his suit was a dick to him, making him fly in the trash cans and walls and stuff. And
but you know what killed that show was when he got an instruction booklet for the suit. That's what killed it. That's what's hilarious.
Yeah.
It was funny because he didn't know how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, that one guy's like, where's the instruction booklet? Didn't you read it? He's like, I threw it away. Like, you get a piece of alien technology, and he's such a man that you know how we are, like, with instructions. It's like, we don't need instructions. We don't need no stinking instructions. But I mean, he had a piece of alien technology and still threw the freaking instructions away. Like, okay. That's stubborn dedication right there, man. I'm saying. Well, what if there was like a button on that suit or something like that could make you explode? I mean, I don't know why there would be, but
I mean, there probably was. I mean, thankfully he wasn't very smart.
Yeah. And the thing is, believe it or not, I used to work out to that song.
I mean, it's a fantastic song. I mean, it is a straight up an American hero song. I mean, it really is.
Speaking of songs, I don't know if you were here for Moody Monday. Like, I know you were here at the beginning, but I think you left at some point, and I recorded us doing a duet together.
Wait, you recorded us doing a duet?
Yes, I did. Well, no, not us. You and Michael Keaton.
Wait, you did?
Yeah.
I don't remember doing a duet with Michael Keaton.
Well, you sure did, buddy, and I got the proof right here.
Ooh, I want to hear it.
So here's you and Michael Keaton doing a duet right here.
Love it already. I haven't even pushed play.
There we go.
Hey, Keith's dad, let's sing. What are we gonna sing? I'm gonna keep on loving you because it's the only thing I like to do. And I really love it when we screw. Baby, yeah, you and me, we're gonna climb a freaking tree, and then I'm gonna kick you in the knee. Wanna keep on loving you. I think that this song is through. Do, 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 do. Hey, your tie's on the floor. Oh, crap, not my tie.
All right, there you have it. Perfect. I gotta say though, I think Michael Keaton was kind of an ass towards you there at the end, though.
Yeah. I think I sound a lot like that when I'm singing.
You think I captured your vocals there?
Yes, I do.
But before we get into the serious shit, I I want to give a shout out to Scare Performance. Scare Performance laid down the compliment on me and Saji on this tearing up Odyssey. And let me tell you something, buddy. We were really tearing it up the other night. And for those of you that haven't seen our Odyssey performance, please go over and watch Odyssey and also watch Scare Performance. You know, he's a good guy, and I think he deserves all the recognition that he gets. He works hard at what he does, and you know, I just want to say I really appreciate that shout out because that was awesome to him. He didn't have to do that, you know.
That is awesome.
So, couple things I want to talk about. One of the things right now I want to bring up Bob Saget for a minute because I don't know if you've followed the news or not, but they found out the real cause of Bob Saget's death.
Oh yeah? Oh, where did he die from?
Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about this. No.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm very interested.
Apparently, he had a blow to the back of his head. Like he hit the back of his head, and I'm not sure how. They weren't real specific on the details, but apparently he had a real good sized blow to the head, and then he laid down and went to bed. And he died in his sleep, apparently, of a concussion.
Oh, wow. Dying of a concussion.
Yep. Blunt force trauma. Yeah, that's what it's called, Michael Fontaine. Thank you. But yeah, it's very highly irregular, like unusual that would happen. It had to be like a real serious blow. Like, you know how sometimes you hit your head really, really hard and then you go, oh man. And you even hear people talk about like, oh, that doesn't really happen. You know, you don't really have to worry about it. You can go to bed on a injured head injury or whatever. But before that, people would talk about, yeah, you should not sleep after you've had a head injury. You should stay up and monitor yourself, check your temperature and all that stuff. So apparently, according to what happened to him, I guess that really can happen.
Yeah, I mean, if I hit my head, I was always told not to go to sleep.
Yeah. So I'm not sure in the details of it. I don't know how he did it, but they ruled out foul play, which is kind of weird because unless he was drunk and slipped on a rug or something and then banged his head on a piece of furniture.
He was a tall guy. He could hit his side on the doorway.
Yeah, that's true. He was tall.
Yeah. I can't stay serious for very long.
I know, right? What is wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with me for that matter? But I don't know, man. It seems awful suspicious to me that who was around him? Like nobody was around him? I thought he was married.
I'd give it a week and we can blame Hillary Clinton.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. All conspiracies point towards Hillary Clinton. But yeah, that's one piece of news that I heard of. I'm like, yeah, because when they first reported it, I thought it was a heart attack or something.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. It was some sort of heart attack or even drinking.
Yeah.
I thought alcohol probably had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm. And it could have he could have been drunk. And like Go-Kart Bob said, he could have slipped in the shower. But
yeah, I could have slipped in the shower because I'm assuming he wasn't bleeding. Because if he was like, if he had like a big old gash in his head, he's not going to sleep.
Yeah, you would assume he would go to the hospital for that.
Right. So he must have just hit his head, got a bump, and then went to sleep.
But then again, somebody hit him, which they suspect didn't happen. But again, like if someone hit him and there was blood, they probably cleaned it up. I don't know.
But if they cleaned it up, and
he would have still been bleeding.
Yeah, he would have a brain bleed, which would be horribly messy. You ever cut your head? It's horribly messy.
Oh yeah, and I've seen wrestlers cut their head all
Yeah.
the time, and it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah. But no, you know what? It could have been an internal bleed, like a brain bleed.
Well, yeah, I mean I guess that's what it would be. It would be like, you know, you hit your head and you're swelling and you have that internal bleeding.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have really hit his head hard then.
Yeah. I mean, I've banged my head on metal, on steel, on all kinds of things, and like, I don't know, I must have the hardest head in the world, because I'll tell you what, man, I don't even get so much as a bump. You know, like you said, he could have bumped it. Like I always like, what was it like? In my grandparents' kitchen, there's this like low hanging cabinet. And like if you're bent over, like trying to get something that's underneath the cabinet, and then you lift up and you forget about it, like you just totally forget it's there, and you're just like, ah. Yeah. But I've done that. In there in my bedroom, I have that treadmill, which is all covered with stuff.
getting a lot of use out of it as a shelf.
As a shelf, yes. But there's this one bar that sticks out. It's like the handle, and sometimes when I'm bent under there trying to pick out like action figures or whatever the case may be, could be action figures, maybe it's clothes, who knows? But I'll often reach up, forget it's there, and bunk, you know. So it's kind of scary when you think about it, man. Things can kill you. Like, you know, when you think about little children, like the first 2 or 3 years of their life is essentially you as a parent keeping your child alive. I mean, they bump their heads, they put shit in their mouth, you know. It's just like a constant battle of keeping that kid alive, you know. Oh, you're muted up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, yeah. I mean, it can just come at any time. I've stopped worrying about it. And in fact, I kind of invite it for when it comes. You know, it all boils down to, I think I don't know if I told the story on your show before, but you know, I'm a Marine vet, and I was stationed in Iraq in 2003, and it was funny that we would have, well, I guess it wasn't funny, but when I first got there, we would have mortars shot at us, you know, and so we'd have explosions, you know, 100 yards away, something like that. And at first, we're really, you know, you the moment it happens, you drop to the floor and you start low crawling to the closest bunker and stuff like that. And after about the first month, we were there for 6 months. After the first month, you get completely desensitized to it, because if it's going to hit you, it's going to hit you. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, there's no protection from it. So you kind of just become desensitized to the thought of being hit by a mortar.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Like, that could happen. You can get desensitized to certain. I guess if someone was constantly shooting at you, you know, like if you lived in Chicago or something like that, and you're just constantly getting shot at, you would just you'd get used to it. You just be walking down the street like it's normal, like getting your groceries or renting a video or something, you know?
Yeah. It just I don't know. You just really stop thinking about it, and if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So you don't worry about it anymore. You know, I have a my grandmother is actually she gets nervous just like she starts to get headaches and backaches just the thought of leaving the house nowadays. Mm-hmm. Now she's 92 years old, so but
yeah,
you know, I remember yesterday I went to go see a movie yesterday, and at a movie theater, and we invited her to go, but she actually got her anxiety of the fear of going out was enough to actually cause pain. So she didn't go.
Yeah, you know, and there are people that they're shut-ins, like they just shut themselves in their apartments or houses, and they never leave the house because they do have that anxiety. And it oftentimes or not, it's brought on by something that happened to them while they were on the outside world, and something happened, like maybe they got shot, or maybe their girlfriend got killed in front of them, or maybe they got mugged one too many times, and they just said, "Fuck it, I'm too scared to go out."
I mean, that's me all day long. I usually, for me to go out, I have to get dragged out. My mom dragged me out to watch a movie. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I've been watching a lot of bad movies recently. I would like to go and watch a decent movie. And we went to go watch a movie, and it was a terrible movie. It was called Moonfall.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was going to be terrible the moment I saw that the lead actor was the same actor from Sharknado. The moment I saw, because I went in blind, and the moment I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this movie's going to be terrible," and it was. It was a terrible movie. It was a hilariously terrible movie, though. I mean, it would fit in with what we do. Like, that's how hilariously terrible it was. 96 years from now, we're going to have that on the Keith's Dad Show.
Yeah. I was thinking about the whole copyright things, copyright issues, and blah, blah, blah. And, I wonder how much it would cost an average Joe like you and I to, like, sort of just like buy a movie, like buy it and own it, clear and free copyright. Like, how many do they charge by how much usage that you use? Because you think about guys who professionally do that, who do what you do, like Mystery Science Theater and stuff, then they professionally do that, and they have the money to actually buy copyrighted material and air it on TV or whatever, and make fun of it like you do.
Yeah.
So,
but they don't. So like, for instance, Riff Tracks is one of them. That's really big. Those are the ones I really follow. They're the old Mystery Science Theater 1000, but they're now called Riff Tracks. And what they actually do is they're not huge. That money conglomerates type of thing where they buy the licensing. What they do is they actually do GoFundMes, and they raise money to do the shows for the year, and they use that money to buy the licensing so that they can show the movie.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it being very much. They only raise like $200,000 or something like that.
Yeah, because I've seen them, like, they don't just make fun of bad movies. They make fun of, like, good movies like Star Wars and, stuff like that. So,
well, to get away with that, they do something a little different. With their live shows, they use the money for their live shows, but Riff Tracks does basically all the movies, pretty much everything. They do Twilight, Harry Potter, Wizard of Oz, all that stuff, completely copyright. But what they do is they sell their jokes separately from the movie. So you buy just an audio file, and it's like $1 for the audio file of them just telling jokes. And similar to, like, syncing Pink Floyd with the Wizard of Oz, you sync this audio file to the movie. So you basically have two speakers. One speaker is the movie, one speaker is them telling the jokes. And it's absolutely hilarious. I've watched them do Avatar, and these guys are fantastic. What I like about them is they take movies that I've seen 100 times, and it's basically new content, because they're able to see certain things that I didn't pick up on when I watched it. So I love them. I buy a ton of their stuff. Maybe one day we'll do that, but we're not there yet.
No, not yet. But I'll tell you what, man. I'm gonna try to do one of those things that we did. I'm gonna try to do the whole thing sort of on my own and see how I do. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. What was that one thing that we did? I think it was last week. It was a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it was Cosmos War of the Planets.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. That was a movie I was a little disappointed with, but that was the one that you said you wanted to do.
I want to try to tackle it. Yeah,
I go for it. I'll watch it twice.
One thing I think we could talk about that's safe to talk about on this platform, and there isn't a whole lot of things that is, but There was another piece of news that came through, and I will mention this one piece of news, but the other piece I'll have to wait for Odyssey. But the mask mandates, I think we could talk a little bit about it as long as we don't go into like the disease itself or anything like that. But a lot of the mandates have been lifted all over the country, and there was a classroom. I forget where it was, but I have some footage on that. It was on Fox News. Jesse Waters, I think his name is, and he has his own show now. Mm-hmm. And he showed some footage of them as soon as they announced the mask mandate was lifted. These kids were just so freaking excited. They were taking off their masks. They were jumping around and just it. I got to tell you, man, it made me proud to be. Well, it wasn't in America, but it made me proud to be an American nonetheless. I don't know why, but
it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard for me to celebrate getting freedoms back, versus the complaining about losing them in the dang first place. There's no reason why we should have lost that freedom to not wear a mask. To whether or not to choose. And if it's different. Like I'm not anti-mask whatsoever, but the idea is that if you're at your home, you shouldn't have to wear a mask. It's your house. You can do whatever you want in your house. But if you own a business, it should be that business's decision whether or not to mandate masks. If you don't agree with them, don't go in the store. It's really as simple as that. But I don't believe this is a place where government has the ability to force their will on other people. They can recommend, but
yeah,
I don't think that. I think that was I was very put off because I enjoy living in a country where the people decide what the government can do. That's a big difference between our country and a lot of other countries. Is that like, for instance, even Canada and the UK. So Canada and the UK, the government gives their people freedoms, right? They give it to them, right? Which is great and all that. But in the United States, it's different. We tell the government what our freedoms are. We say don't touch them.
Or at least it should be that way.
Right. That's the whole Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We say these are our freedoms. You're not allowed to touch them. It's not the government telling us what our freedoms are. It's us telling the government what our freedoms are. And they really, really scared me these past 2 years about what freedoms they are just you could just take away. You can just boom,
Well, look at when this whole thing first started. Preachers were getting arrested for holding services in church, and people were getting arrested. Well, not arrested, but they were getting kicked out of places for just not. It's been ridiculous. It's like, and the thing is, we allowed this to happen. We as a people allowed all of this to happen. And now it's like, we're trying to take back what we allowed to get taken away in the first place.
Yeah. It scares me how easy. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not very much of a hypocrite when it comes to this kind of mentality. Like, for instance, I also believe seatbelt laws are pretty stupid. Not because the seatbelts don't save lives. Of course they save lives. Absolutely, they save lives. And if you're not wearing a seatbelt, you kind of deserve to go through the windshield. But I don't feel the government should have the power to mandate that. I believe that that's outside of their position. That's just my belief. It goes all over. That's the dumb one. So I understand if people disagree with me on that one, because that is the one where it's like, I mean, seatbelts obviously save lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't wear a seatbelt. I'm just saying that the mandate of it, I don't agree with.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and they tried to do that with biker helmets as
Yes.
well, but it didn't fly. It didn't. I think maybe in one or two states it might have, where they had biker laws like that, but I don't think people abided by them. And then pretty soon, before you knew it, it wasn't mandated.
Yeah. The thing is that and I don't think people realize it, because we've used this term a lot, but they don't really think about it. Is they say that freedoms cost lives, and most people, when they say that, they're talking about the military. The military are protecting our freedoms, but it's not just that. Every freedom we have, right? The whole point of it being a freedom is that it has the ability to be abused, and because if it doesn't have the ability to be abused, it's not really a freedom. And so the idea is that every freedom that you have has that ability, and it will eventually cost lives. For instance, the freedom to own a gun. This is kind of sad, but the freedom to own a gun, right? The fact of the matter is, right, if you are free to own guns per the Second Amendment, at one point, Billy is going to get a hold of that gun and shoot his sister. I mean, it's bound to happen. It's not to say that it's an epidemic, but the whole point is that at some point that is going to happen. That a life will be lost, an innocent life will be lost because of this freedom. And so
That's why people need to be responsible with their freedoms too.
Well, that's what it is. Responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
you have to be responsible with your freedoms. And a lot of times we're not. Freedom of speech. I mean, how many,
Yeah.
You bully someone online and they go and commit suicide. That's abusing your freedom, not being responsible with your freedom. I mean, every freedom we have cost lives. And so how much, the question is not, the question is either, do you just eliminate the freedom? We can save lives if you eliminate the freedom. What is a decent amount of lives that would be worth it? I mean, it's a hard question.
And I want to address something that Connie Joe says here. The thing is, Connie Joe, it's not red or not. If you're out in public and you're wearing your mask to protect yourself, then you've got your mask on. So you shouldn't have to worry if the next guy standing next to you has a mask on or not. That shouldn't be your concern. Like, if he or she isn't wearing their mask, then just, so what? Let them be. You're protecting yourself by wearing your mask if that makes you feel comfortable. But the whole point is to not force it on them that they have to do it. That's the whole thing. Now, is it polite or impolite? Well, I don't know, but the point is they shouldn't be forced to have to do it. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing if you're driving around in the car, like you said about the seatbelt laws. Now, those are laws that are put in place to protect ourselves, but I guess so were the mask mandates. But getting back to the mask, you see a guy riding around and he's not wearing his seatbelt, but you're wearing your seatbelt. And if you feel safe wearing your seatbelt, then why are you worried about that other guy? Like, don't even worry. Just let people be.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. And when I don't mean when I say freedoms like and use the seatbelt. The whole point is that the idea is I don't believe in anarchy, right? Your freedom ends when it affects another person's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that I feel. So if it doesn't affect another person's freedom, then you should be free to do it. And seatbelts are a good example, in my opinion, that it doesn't affect anybody else. You'd be stupid if you didn't wear a seatbelt, but that should be your choice.
But you could also make the same argument for the mask. Like,
Well, the mask.
mask.
So the mask is a little different. Initially, the mask wasn't to protect yourself. You wearing the
Well,
mask was to protect other people. It was kind of a, it was never really. Cloth masks do not protect against the COVID virus.
No.
But what it did do is it stopped your breath from crossing the room. So the point of the mask was not really to protect yourself, other than to protect other people. But it again, how much is your freedom worth to you?
But then again, we find out, and we've talked about this before, and we weren't allowed to say it on YouTube, but I think we're allowed to say it now, that we found out later the cloth masks don't really do anything. It's the surgical mask and the other stronger masks that actually have more protection.
Yeah, the N95s.
Yeah, the N95s.
Yeah, those will protect you. Well, not 100%, but they're actually designed to protect you versus protecting everyone else. So they are a little better for you.
And I could make the same argument about the that it protects you, and if you've got it and it makes you feel safe, then don't worry about the other guy. Like, if the other guy doesn't want to get one, you know what I'm talking about, right? The jab.
Yeah.
And it's like, then why are you worried about them?
I never understood that. I never understood that. I was like, wait. Why are you so mad about those people when you're protected?
Mm-hmm.
Mind your own damn business.
Exactly.
But of course, since then we found out that you're not actually fully protected.
Right. You can still
get
it. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that more when we switch over to Odyssey, because freedom of speech again is not protected under social media platforms, because social media goes out all over the world, and I think that's their loophole, that they can get by with it more, blocking freedom of speech, because it's not America based. Even though I think Google is an American based company, I think that their loophole is that they're not, all of us are not American. Like,
their loophole is that they're not the government.
Yeah.
Because the government can't mess with your freedom of speech, but everybody else can.
Yeah.
I mean, a company can absolutely mess with your freedom of speech, on their platform.
Right.
I mean, that's and sure, but what's eventually going to happen is the same thing that happened to MySpace. MySpace did just the opposite. MySpace allowed everyone to do whatever the hell they wanted. Play your own music on your web thing, just go crazy on your MySpace page, to the point where it got so complicated. Facebook comes out and it's very standardized, and so everyone ended up moving there. And now Facebook is going down the tubes slowly, because
They are.
I felt like they went down the tubes the moment my mom joined, but now
what does that mean?
Well, I used to use Facebook like as a venting place, and I used to joke, and I used to be like very crude sometimes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
when my mom and my family joined, I get phone calls and stuff.
See, and you know what? That's the thing about Facebook also, is like, Facebook is now getting to the point where just nobody wants to be on there. Everyone's getting banned from there. You got monitors on there that don't know the difference between a joke and you spreading false information or misinformation or blah, blah, blah. The same thing was going on when all the political stuff was going on. I can't really mention what the political stuff was, but we all know what it was. But I would get into arguments with friends, family, you name it, and that was it was a divisional thing. And even when you presented evidence of certain things, like, they were just like, no, you can't do that. That's not evidence. That's we fact check that, and that's not real or whatever, So then the question becomes, who fact checks the checkers?
Um, the idea is that I think the problem that we have, and Go-Kart Bob mentions YouTube too, and Facebook and YouTube are well, real quick, actually, 2 years ago, I got rid of Facebook, and it was a very hard thing to do, and I'm so glad I did it. I have never once looked back and said, you know what, I'll get my Facebook back. I'm so glad I got rid of it. But it was hard. It was hard to do it, but I did it, and I'm so glad. But the problem with Facebook and YouTube is that there's no alternative options at the moment. We'd like to think there are alternative options. When it comes to YouTube, there is Twitch, and then there's other things, but they're not really the same. I mean, people watch YouTube. That's what they do. So there really isn't a viable option to really go to with Facebook and YouTube. That's why everyone uses it. But yeah, YouTube is very similar to Facebook in the same kind of way. Luckily, I just make fun of movies, so I don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, you don't get into any like controversial talking or anything like that involves free speech, unless, well, we do kind of slip in jokes here and there, but I seriously doubt that YouTube's going to ban us for doing like COVID jokes on a bad movie.
Yes. In fact, I don't know if you guys noticed, right? But I think we're starting to become a bad habit to Hebrew, because Hebrew, he can slip out, a swear every now and then. But I never once, you know where I'm going with this, Hebrew. Never once. The last movie we watched together Wednesday, he just blurted out "F you," like he's just like "fuck you," and he was like, "Oh my." Because we don't say that on this show. We don't talk like that really on this show. But it's totally acceptable when you're making fun of a movie. And so we talked about it afterwards, and I was like, that was so perfectly timed. It was so fantastic, and it caught me way off guard. If I was drinking soda, it would have been come out my nose. Because it was such a fun comment. It was probably my favorite comment of that whole movie. Let me see. What do we got? YouTube is good. Just having problem with words. I watch videos on YouTube for blacksmithing or ice sheds or building something. I do too.
I'll tell you this on what you just said. I don't usually like to use just pop in swear words, just as jokes. Like that's usually like the lowest common denominator. But however, sometimes the moment just feels right. Like that other guy was just barking orders at that one dude, and the look on his face was just like, F you. So
it was perfect. It really was. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Every once in a while, you can't do it constantly, but the fact
right.
that the show does allow for that, if you remember, you guys don't remember because it was before you guys, even anyone on the channel, is there was the Keats Dad channel. There was no swearing allowed. We didn't swear at all for 3 years. There was really no swearing allowed. But we played Minecraft and was more kid oriented. We are so not kid oriented anymore. Right. No kid should be watching this show, to the point where some of our hosts I've had to kind of question because if we've had a couple hosts who were actually 17, and I make a bit of a command decision there, because whether or not they're mature enough to actually do that kind of stuff.
Well, even like I can remember watching even like Mystery Science Theater 3000, like the original, and every once in a while you'd hear like a shit or a bastard or son of a bitch. But then when they started doing the other channel, the what's it called again? Help me out here.
Riff Tracks.
Yeah, when they started doing riff tracks, I heard more and more swearing.
Yeah,
they have a longer leash on that when they do that channel.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why I like our channel, because we don't have the social pressures on our channel to not do certain jokes. Like, for instance, Riff Tracks has actually come out and apologized for some of the jokes that they do. I'm not about to do that because some of our jokes are horribly bad. But the whole point of it is they're jokes. If you don't find them funny, no big deal. Heck, most of the jokes I don't get. That's some of the jokes Hebrew says I don't get. Some of the jokes Michael Fontaine and Philo Fire and Go Kart Bob, some of the jokes I put up, I don't actually get them. I just put them up to put them up. But the whole point is somebody's going to get them.
Yeah, I have a lot of obscure references.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes I'll put one of my jokes will be an extremely obscure reference, and no one will get it except for Philo Fire.
Right. But yeah, you gotta have that balance. Like, you can't just throw a swear in there for no good reason. Like, there has to be
point to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The swear itself is the comedic value more than just, you're not doing it to, in a sentence, you're not saying F this, F that, the effing, and it's a very poignant, like, you're making a point by using the swear.
But getting back to jokes and comedians and stuff like that, like, comedians here lately have caught a lot of crap for their jokes, and a lot of them have gone back and apologized for them. I was watching a documentary about such a thing, and they were talking about, like, comedians that do that, and Gilbert Gottfried was one of those comedians that I never once apologized for my behavior, my humor, my sense of humor, and he made a joke shortly after the attack on the Twin Towers. He made a horrible, terrible joke that wasn't even all that funny, but it was funny, but it wasn't all that funny. And it was, of course, it was bad timing on his part. And, but he never apologized for that. So, I mean, it's like what's his name always says, if you are going to a comedy show and you're one of those people that's going to be easily offended, or you have a friend that is going to be easily offended, don't bring them. Just don't bring them. Because comedy is suggestive and subjective. I can't even talk tonight. But yeah, so if you're offended by a joke, then good. Be offended and then move on. Don't make a big deal out of it and act like, oh, I'm so offended, I'm writing a letter. I'm gonna cancel this guy. That's just taking it too far. Like, there's being offended and then there's being offended. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to get offended over something. It really is. But, be offended over it and just get over it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand really people getting offended, especially when it's something that has nothing to do with them. That always boggled my mind. To be offended for somebody else is the most bizarre thing in the world. I guess it's some sort of what's the word? Not empathy, but something similar to empathy. But I mean, you're walking into a comedic presence. The whole point of it is just be a joke, which means whether or not you like the joke, whether or not you think it's funny, the point is it's not serious. The guy doesn't mean it. That's why at the end of my show I have to put out that there's no political statements we're making here. They're just jokes. It doesn't. If you don't find them funny, then you don't find them funny. That's fine, but you can't get offended. Nobody is taking this seriously. I mean, we watch
it. It's just like I think it was George Carlin that once said, "I'm not racist. I hate everyone equally." So I mean, And the thing is, man, it's like I think that the kids nowadays, and I say kids, I mean like young adults or whatever, they are so brainwashed, a lot of them, because they go to these colleges, and then the college's campus, the professors, they actually teach this bullshit that, oh, this is racist, or you've got to do this racist. And, like you said, it's not the actual people. Like, it's not actual, like, black people or Native Americans or Mexicans or whatever, the ones that are getting offended. It's the white people or the whatever who are offended for those people. Just like you said, they're the ones. If you look at the statistics, 95% of it's just like when Speedy Gonzalez, when they canceled Speedy Gonzalez, it wasn't the Mexicans who got offended over them canceling Speedy Gonzalez, but it was a group of white people who actually got offended for the Mexicans. The Mexicans were more offended that they took him down, because it's like that was sort of like I don't want to say like their hero, but it was sort of like, the one cartoon that kind of represented them, and they were like, a lot of them were saddened that he got canceled.
It's funny. You made this claim, probably over a year ago, I think, and it's just now hitting the news. And I every time I hear it on the news, I go, Hebrew predicted this a long time ago, like well before. It was when you mentioned when they took Aunt Jemima down. And they took old Ben down from the rice, and they took down the Land O'Lakes girl. And you made the claim that, like, the only people that are going to be left in the grocery stores is a bunch of white people. And it's true. I've seen articles, and I think I've watched a couple of news shows that actually made that same claim. After you, of course. That's what was happening, is they're taking down all these people, but they're making grocery stores racist.
Yeah.
By doing that.
By default. Yeah. Yeah. And there was something I read at that time when I made the claim, is like, there was a guy talking about it, saying the people who cancel the culture the most are the ones who are actually racist.
I mean, they are. I don't know why we don't talk about that, but they totally are.
Yeah.
It's like, and how can they not see that? They must.
I mean, look who you have on the shelves. You got Captain Crunch, which is white. You got Quaker Oats guy, he's white. You got Paul Newman, he was white. You got several other white people on all these boxes and products and stuff, and there are no black people, there are no Native Americans, there aren't even Mexicans on boxes anymore. There's no one to represent all the other cultures. They're gone.
They're gone. Because having them on there was considered racist somehow.
Yeah. So good job, people. Good job. That's what I'm saying, man. Good job,
Yeah, it's. I don't understand how they do that.
I like what. Look, I'm gonna put this comment up here. See what DD74 said there?
Yeah, and it is. It really is. I'm waiting for them to take the Starbucks girl down.
No, they wouldn't do that, because that's a goddess. You see, that's somebody.
It looks like a girl spreading her legs.
It does. You're right. She's very welcoming. Come to me.
It does.
Oh man, I used to have a crush on what was it? I used to have a crush on one of the cartoons, and I can't think of it right out this moment. I can't believe I can't think of it. but yeah, when you're little, you have crush on cartoon women. This is
You know
real
who
cool.
my crush was?
Hmm.
My crush was Sailor Mercury.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I was like 14 or something like that when I got the crush, and it was Sailor Mercury from Sailor Moon.
Ah,
That was my cartoon crush. Cartoon crush, anyway.
yeah. Yeah, now my real not real life, but my real physical person, like actual living person type crush was Paula Abdul, believe it or not. I had this Paula Abdul poster on my wall, and oh my good lord.
That's because you come from the Pepsi commercial generation.
Do I now? Okay.
So yeah, when the Pepsi commercial came out, I was only like 6 or 7, but you would have been that age
Hmm.
where that was directed basically toward you. You know what commercial I'm talking about, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
it's like in the desert and she's like she's wearing the short shorts,
Mhm.
the Daisy Dukes and like a wife beater, and she goes up to the soda machine and she gets a Pepsi, and there's like a kid on a bike watching her the whole time or something like that.
All over the shirt. Yeah. Yeah, man. Tila from He-Man and the Masters Universe. I think that was my first cartoon crush.
Another one where I was 6 or 7, possibly younger. So I didn't really have those kind of crushes. My biggest crushes when it came to the old stuff was I had it's so embarrassing. All right, I had a crush on Mary Poppins, so Julie Andrews for a while, and then I also had a crush on
Oh, Philo Fire is going to correct you. I think that was Cindy Crawford that did
oh,
that commercial.
that was Cindy Crawford. Who
Yeah.
did you say?
I was talking about Paula Abdul.
Oh, Paul Abdul. She had the 2 steps forward, 1
Yeah.
step back
Yeah, but that wasn't
music video.
the video that got me through puberty though. It was the cold hearted snake video. Oh my goodness. That video. Wow.
Oh,
I'm telling you.
I just remembered my second old timey crush was Olive Oil from
No.
from Popeye with Robin
No way.
Williams. Yeah, it was
Oh,
Olive
really?
Oil. Yeah, in fact, my first wife looks a lot like her.
No
Not
way.
not even gonna lie, looks just like her.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Those are those are my old timey crushes. And
Okay.
then you had Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Oh, that one part when she was in Batman Forever, she comes up in that nightgown, and oh my gosh.
My favorite movie with Nicole Kidman, where I thought she was just the sexiest, was the movie The Others, which she was a mom with like 2 kids, and she was dead, and she wore Victorian outfits. So she
Mm.
wasn't actually trying to be very sexy.
Yeah.
It was just her, it was her personality and her demeanor, which I found very, very attractive in that movie.
Hmm.
But she also did like Eyes Wide Shut and Moulin
Oh,
Rouge and
yeah,
stuff
Eyes
like
Wide
that.
Shut.
So
Oh my good lord.
and The Golden Compass. I know a lot of Nicole Kidman movies. I watch a lot of them. But The Others was the one that really got me because she was very ladylike. That's what it was. It was a very ladylike type of thing. If you notice, I'm not picking girls that are like walking around with no clothes on. For some
Right.
reason, it wasn't about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And Sailor Mercury
It's
was the nerd. She was basically the Daphne of Sailor Moon.
Thelma?
No, Thelma.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of the nerd.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, man. I was thinking about this earlier before I went live. Sitting back thinking about comic books, and you have Peter Parker who worked for the Daily Planet. You had Clark Kent who worked for the wait, I said that backwards.
Yes, she did.
Peter Parker who worked for the Daily Bugle, Clark Kent who worked for the Daily Planet, and you had Eddie Brock. Of course, he worked for a newspaper. I can't think of the name of it now, but you had Vicky Vale, who worked for the Gotham Gazette, in the comic books.
Yeah.
And it's like all these newspapers And now when you think about the newspapers and the jobs these people had at the time, those are all gone now, man, because newspapers are finito. They're finished. They're gonna in the next 12 years or so, you won't even know what a newspaper even is. So, and just my point is, boy, how the times are changing. They're gonna have to do like internet news or podcast or something. They're gonna have to change their occupation. Is what I'm saying.
It'll be. We're gonna come to a time where it's gonna be like the Dark Crystal when he walks up to like the prophecies that are on the stone walls, and she goes, "Oh, what are those things?" And he goes, "Those are words." And she's like, "What are words?" And he goes, "No, it's writing." He goes, "That's writing." And she goes, "What is writing?" And he goes, "It's words that stay." And that was his explanation. I'm like, you know what? At one point, we're gonna be my kids are gonna teach their kids what that means, because we're not gonna have any writing anymore. Everything's just gonna be, video or directly imprinted onto their brain.
Yeah. My favorite part as a kid waking up on a Sunday morning was like getting the comic strips out of the paper, out of the big fat newspaper. Like that damn thing was about as thick as my head, and it probably weighed about 10 pounds. I mean, the paper that you got on Sunday was huge, man. It was huge. Like, I don't know how the paper boy, like he must have got a hell of a workout on Sundays, brother, because he tossed that paper. That's why it never landed on your porch. It was always either in the bushes or on the sidewalk, or at somebody's window or something. It was never on the porch. But yeah, the funny papers, man, that was a joy as a kid. That and the Toys R Us catalog.
Toys R Us catalog. Yeah. You remember looking for a job in the newspaper? Like that was a thing at one point.
Yeah. Yep. Looking for a job, looking for an old car.
Yeah.
The
newspaper was our first eBay.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, dude, like, do you remember movie news? Like you'd go and look through there and pick out whatever movie you wanted to go see. That shit, that's gone.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't even read the newspaper. In fact, I had a free subscription to Time magazine, and I've never cracked open the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
I got I got them all, but I've never read anything in them.
I remember watching TV as a kid, and then the Time Life books commercial would come on, and there'd be Time Life. Learn how to fix a sink. Learn how to redo your tile. Learn how to make an ashtray out of, whatever the case was. But they had a whole set, like it was volumes, volume 1, volume 2 and 3 and 4 or 5, whatever. What if, like, when that was going on, like if you missed like one deal, like you didn't, like you're putting together a kitchen cabinet or something, but you had volumes 1, 2, and 3 of how to put together a kitchen cabinet, but you were missing 4, 5, and 6. That would have really screwed you up.
As a kid, my mom, I don't know why she ever did this, but I always remember it is every time she went to the grocery store had kind of like this little book section. Mm-hmm. And every time she went to the grocery store, probably about once a month, actually, so not every time, but once a month, she would pick up one volume of an encyclopedia. And so she started with A, and then B, and then C, to the point where it took like, I think, 2 years for her to get all the encyclopedias. But I ended up having a complete, when I was growing up, we had a whole thing of encyclopedias in our house. Mm-hmm. Because she picked it up one book at a time.
The thing is, yeah, that's pretty neat. The thing is, man, my great grandparents, like, they had all these world books, and it's like, I don't know if you remember world books or not, but they had world books, and you had certain volumes like A through Z or whatever. But the thing is, when they died and my grandparents got the world books and they got them in their house, well, by the time they had them, like, the world books that they had ended in like the 1950s. So it was like all the information and all the knowledge that I know about the world today like ended in 1957 or whatever. So
You know, it's interesting you said that. I watched a video yesterday about the history of. You remember you remember the show Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
yeah,
It was a game show, right? But it
right.
had like it had rockapella in it, which was
Mhm.
the music talent, and they would do all these. You know, it was based off of basically world geography, and they talk about how once that show ended, they never syndicated it because they
Mm.
couldn't syndicate it because of world geography changed so often that now when you go and you watch that show, it's all different. The world has changed since then.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they that's why you won't see it aired anymore. But man, that show was rocking at the time.
Yes.
That was such an awesome show.
Then later they of course had the cartoon, but
Yeah,
I
the cartoon.
I remember playing the game on PC like it was one of the very first games I had for my PC at the time.
Yeah, it was interesting that the makers of the video game actually sold the rights to make a show to PBS for free.
Mm-hmm.
They just gave them the rights because the idea was the show was free publicity for the games.
Mm.
But my goodness, I listened when I was watching this video. They played a couple rockapella, songs, and I was like, man, those guys were geniuses. Whatever the heck happened to them? I never looked them up, but rockapella was like they were so talented.
Where in the world is the Rockapella band?
Yeah, I wonder what they ended up doing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because something I was going to bring up also is like, back in the 80s and even the 90s, before they developed TV Guide on your TV where you could just look shit up. And of course, way before internet, TV Guide was like the big thing, right? Like it was the most awesome book ever. And the thing is, man, I remember like this is how I knew that Star Trek The Next Generation was coming out is I learned it from TV Guide, because like I said, this is before you could just look everything up.
Right.
And when I first saw I had the cover, the first ever cover of Star Trek Next Generation. And when I saw that cover and I saw the cast on there, I was just like, what in the heck is this crap? Like the captain is bald and there's a Klingon on the crew. This is never gonna work. This is I mean, that was my first reaction. And then of course, the show picked up, and of course we know what happened after then. But for the longest time, I think that was the reaction for a lot of the original Trekkies. Like they were just like, this show is it's not gonna be any good at all. But and then of course when I started watching it, the first season, of course, wasn't all that great. But then after that, seasons going forward is like the best show ever. Oh my gosh, I was so hooked by season 3, I think it was.
I mean, I was hooked from season 1 when they killed off Tasha Yar because that was like the first Walking Dead type of thing that ever happened. A main character dying was completely unheard of. Completely unheard of. So I was pretty hooked after Tasha Yar died.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, face it though, some of those first season episodes were just like
terrible. Yes.
just terrible. There was one episode that would never make it on the air today about those African guys, and then the girl that wanted to fight Tasha Yar for like to the death.
Oh yeah. There's a show. I've mentioned it before. Doctor Who. Doctor Who's been on for 50 years, and back in 2004, they re-released it as a series, and it actually became very popular in the United States. And then just a couple of years ago, they decided that the Doctor was going to be a girl. So the doctor's been a boy up for the last 50 years, and then they decided to make it a girl. So they hired this woman to play it, and they got a new showrunner, which is similar to having like an executive producer here. Right. It's in Europe they call it a showrunner. He's in charge of like the storyline and everything.
A showrunner here too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
So the showrunner and the new doctor really didn't know much about the Doctor Who whatsoever. They weren't really fans of it. They were just kind of hired to do it, and they took that show and threw it in the trash. I stopped watching it. I couldn't stand it anymore. Well, it was so bad that what they ended up doing is once they announced that they were leaving, they ended up rehiring the guy who started it all in 2004 to bring him back just so that they could salvage this TV show again.
Man, I gotta stop you right there for a second and address Fire's comment there. I used to love watching Square One. Oh my gosh. I used to watch Square One. I used to watch David the Gnome, The Lost City of Gold. What was the other one? You Can't Do That on Television. There was another one. What was the name of that show where the pinball machine would start out? They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do 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 do. What was that show?
That wasn't Sesame Street?
No, I don't think so.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12. So
yeah. That was not Sesame Street, Fire. No.
I thought that was Sesame Street. It's not Reading Rainbow.
That was not Sesame Street. That was different show. Totally different. Was it Pinwheel? No, it wasn't Pinwheel. Contact. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was Contact. And I used to love that show, Contact. I used to watch that, and I used to watch Pinwheel. And there was these two guys on Pinwheel, and they would always argue with each other. And in one show, they were arguing. They were kind of like the Bert and Ernie of that show. And they would go, "Got you last. Well, I got you last. I got you last. No, I got you last." And they would just keep doing that throughout the entire show. And I was hooked. What can I say? I don't know what else to say. And that was Pinwheel, spin me around. How did that go? Pinwheel, spin me around. Show me your titties and I'll go down. No, I'm just kidding. No, definitely not. But no, HBO or Showtime or I think it was HBO had Fraggle Rock, which I never could see when I was a kid. But when we got this, for some reason, like on a clear day, HBO actually came in. It was a little fuzzy, but it came in. So I would watch Fraggle Rock in the mornings, and of course there was Skinamax at night, but that's a different story for a different time.
Yeah, I was as a kid, I think my big things I watched Nickelodeon Guts, Beakman's World.
Beakman's World. Oh my gosh, I used to love Beakman's World.
And I loved.
Now, was that the one with the dog? That had the dog in it, and then the crazy lady? Or am I thinking of something else?
I mean, I thought it had two kids in it. But, I mean, I honestly don't even remember. I remember kind of Beakman.
You know what? I get Beakman's World confused sometimes with Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I liked him too, but he was a little later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always, I love that. I loved Reading Rainbow at the time.
Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
I can be anywhere. Just take a look. It's in a book. LeVar Burton does this show, and he looks weird without visors on. Reading Rainbow. Yeah, man, that was some awesome times.
Yeah, I used to watch all those. There was a bunch of PBS shows that I watched back in the day.
Mr. Wizard, that was another one. Mr. Wizard.
Mr. Wizard's before my time.
Mm-hmm.
I watched them. but
Yeah.
he was a little before my time.
They did a sketch not too long ago, Mr. Wizard, on Saturday
Oh,
Night
it was a rat. Beekman's World had a rat.
That's what it was, a rat. For some
Thank you.
reason, I thought it was a dog.
Thank you, Bone Breaking Action. That's right. It
Oh,
was a
cool.
rat. Oh, he was so crazy.
Bone breaking action, where Bateman's world is real.
And then, but you know what's funny is even nowadays I watch stuff like that. Like, there's a series. London every year has a series of Christmas lectures, and it comes. The first guy to ever do it was back in the 1800s, and they do it every single year. And they start recording them, and so I watch the Christmas lectures because it's basically science, but it's more directed toward kind of your young adult type of kind of science. And so they do a bunch of I think it was started by Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday started the Christmas lectures, and it's not just one day. It's like it's a lecture that lasts like a couple of days, and they're so awesome. The experiments they do on the lectures and stuff are just so cool. And so I still watch them. It's like a real life Mr. Wizard is basically what it is.
Wow.
If you ever get a chance, do like a Google of I think it was like London Christmas lectures or something like that, and they're hilarious. They're fun, enjoyable, and they're similar to like that whole Mr. Wizard Beekman's World type of thing, but it's like real scientists doing it, and they've all done it. If you name a scientist that you know, if it was within the last 100 years, they've done a Christmas lecture. It's very cool.
Paddington Bear used to wear a rain cap. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was
just coughing. I couldn't hit the mute button fast enough.
Oh, okay. But did you know that Arnold from Different Strokes, like he had a Paddington Bear stuffed animal, but he didn't call him Paddington Bear. I forget what he called him, but I was watching Different Strokes the other day, and it was hilarious. But we're gonna move on to Odyssey to talk about some real shit. But before we do, there's one thing I want to mention, and I know Keith's dad, you'll probably be at differences with me on this one, but just hear me out here. Okay, so March is a month away, like it's right around the corner practically. And as you know, sometime in March is the beginning of Lent. And it got me to thinking about Jesus Christ. And and I was gonna do like an action figure type thing where we're sitting around a round table talking about it, but I think I'm gonna bring it up here because I did put it in the description. But it's so weird. I'm sitting here thinking, Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected in a body, in a human body form. He was resurrected in a body and then ascended into heaven. So like everyone talks about Jesus like he's dead, but when you think about Jesus, like, yeah, he's supposed to be a omnipotent being that's supposed to be everywhere at once. However, he is, when you think about the resurrection, and he was resurrected into a human body and he ascended into heaven, Jesus, as far as I know, is the only being that's in heaven right now in full human body form. Like he's a physical form, unless that's changed, because when you read the Bible, that's the way it says he ascended into heaven. So it kind of makes me think, us as humans, like we're just regular humans. Like we probably can't do that, but there is somewhere in the Bible that says, I think it's in Revelations, which says that the wicked will stay on earth, and then the righteous shall ascend into heaven. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to ascend into heaven much like Jesus did, or are we gonna have soul bodies that ascend into heaven? So that's just the kind of things I'm thinking about when I'm laying in bed staring at the ceiling when the power goes out.
before I answer this, why would you think that I would have a problem with this?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't have a problem with it. Everything you said was perfectly natural. Yes, you're right. He ascended in heaven as a human. He's not the first one to do it. There's been a couple other humans in the Bible who have ascended to heaven, but have come back down and lived a normal life since. And yes, when it comes to the Revelations now, what it says and what I believe might differ a little bit, but when it comes to what it says in Revelations is that the dead will come back to life, the dead will rise. So everyone who has died will be resurrected, and if judged, they will rise to heaven. So everybody will do what Jesus did, even people that have died already, because according to the Bible, we'll all be resurrected.
That kind of gets me thinking too, is also like he promised his disciples, like he said, everyone who follows me and lives by my commandments will find eternal life. Now,
Yes.
a lot of people interpret this in different ways, but my way to interpret it is exactly like it says. Like if you follow Jesus, if you're a believer of Jesus and you follow him and do righteous things by him, then you will have that, like he gave us that gift that we will have eternal life, which not necessarily here on earth, because there'll be a new earth formed when the end times comes. But does that necessarily mean we're going to heaven? I don't know, but it is kind of interesting to talk about. So I'd like you to chime in wherever you can. And what are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, so I'm looking it up because Go-Kart Bob says that the Bible doesn't say it, and so it's written in the Pauline epistles of the New Testament that Paul the Apostle wrote that those who will be resurrected to eternal life will be resurrected with spiritual bodies which are imperishable. The flesh and blood of natural perishable bodies cannot inherit the kingdom of God, and likewise those that are corruptible will not receive incorruption, which is Corinthians.
Well, there you go. Here's what DD74 says. This is out of the Bible. I assure you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and he will even do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. So, I read that too, and that's sort of the way I interpret it, is like, I don't know, just kind of things I like to think about. It's nothing really that I'm not, in no means am I an expert on the Bible. I couldn't even tell you verses and all this stuff in the Bible. I have read at it, but I'm not well versed on it. And it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things I do know a little bit about here and there, but again, in no way am I like well versed at it. I just come up with these ideas from passages that I have read and try to form opinions on it and try to just figure stuff out. That's all.
Yeah, that's all you can do. It really is. No, and I hate to disclaimer here before I get into this is I'm not a big fan of the Mormon religion. They're kind of their belief systems are extremely wacko and weird, right? But they have one belief that I really like, is that they believe they believe in 3 different types of heaven. I don't believe that, but they believe that. What I found interesting about that belief is they believe that most people will end up going to heaven. Most people will. It's not the higher echelon of heaven that that we talk about, because they have 3 levels. It's the celestial, terrestrial, and telestial. So it goes terrestrial, telestial, and then celestial. Celestial being the highest one. It makes no sense considering that terrestrial means Earth, but That's what they believe, and they believe that most people will be on that first level of heaven, even non-Mormons, because the whole point is that you'll, as long as you try to be a good person, that's really all that really matters. Not everyone is going to be the greatest person in the world, but as long as you give it a go and give it a try, that works. Now there's other requirements. You do have to be Christian, because there's that requirement that you have to believe that Jesus died for your sins. That was a requirement. But Mormons believe that. So Mormons are actually one of the religions that believe that other Christian religions will actually go to heaven, unlike the Catholic Church that believes if you're not Catholic, you're not going to heaven.
Yeah, the Catholic Church also believes in purgatory, and I'm sort of always been on the fence about that issue. However, if there seems like there has to be, if there's a judgment, to me, it would make sense that there would be a purgatory. And purgatory to me would be more like a waiting room, somewhere where you sit and you wait for the judgment to come. I mean, that's to me what that means.
Well, so my understanding of the Bible is that no one has been judged yet.
Right.
Not even people who've died. So there is some sort of waiting area until we do get judged. But as far as we're basically all standing outside the gates. I mean, time works differently, obviously, but that's my understanding, is that we, and to be honest, that was another thing with Mormons that I thought was an interesting belief that they had, was that they believed that you can be saved after death. That was a belief that they had, because Jesus said that everyone will have the opportunity to witness what you have witnessed, talking to his apostles. And well, I mean, if everyone's going to have the opportunity, that means everyone's going to have the opportunity to actually talk to Jesus before they get to choose, unless they've already chosen the right path. So I thought it was an interesting, not whether or not I believe it, I thought it was a very interesting belief system.
It's
Because it makes
interesting.
sense.
Yeah, I agree. I don't believe most of that stuff, but it is interesting. And I have heard someone once say that time has no meaning with God. Like, there's no time in heaven. Like, you could die tomorrow, and but for you, tomorrow, like if I die 10 years after you die, like I would be there at the same time that you would be, even if you died 10 years before me, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, because it does by not making sense, because because I'm a very science person too, so I'm Christian and I believe in pretty much everything science wise, and there is proof of that in the reality around us. Meaning, for instance, there was a question I always find hilarious, is when someone asks the question, well, what happened before the Big Bang? Did I ever ask this question on the show before? What happened before the Big Bang?
I don't think you have.
You can't ask that question. That's because time was invented at the Big Bang. Time didn't exist before the Big Bang. So technically there is no before the Big Bang. It doesn't, you can't even fathom it. We try to fathom it because we live, in an orderly timeline fashion, but time, that's why it's time and space. Time was created with space. So there is no before. It doesn't exist. The universe has just always been, because you can't have a before without time. I know it sounds so bizarre, but
well, that's interesting. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
That's makes sense. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I always found that very interesting.
But hey, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here for the YouTube portion of the show. And I got to be honest with you, once we get over to Odyssey, we probably won't talk about a hell of a lot much more, but we are going to talk about stuff.
I can karaoke copywritten songs though. All right.
Yes, you can. But so yeah, I see Fire sent the link in the chat somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where that is. But maybe if she could just paste it in there just one more time, because it's way up there. But let me go ahead and give this room one final shout out. Just in case they don't all make it over there to Odyssey.
Okay.
So we do have, I think, Fire DD74 and Go-Kart Bob might be over there, but let me go ahead and give them a shout out. Oh wait, I already did. And thank you, Fire, for posting that once again. So we do have DD74, Fire, and Michael Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine's gonna keep on Fontaining things. No. Let's see here. Oh, we had Sweet Connie Joe Wood in here earlier. We also had the pleasure of having bone-breaking action here tonight. Yes, we did. He might not make it over there to Odyssey, so I gave him a good shout out. Let's see here. I'm scrolling up as far as I can, and I don't really see any other participants. Do you?
No. I think you got them all.
I got them all. So the ones I did miss, if I did miss you, I do apologize for that. And I would like to give a very special shout out to Nicole Ackerman in case she watches this later.
Oh, did you get Mark Basket?
Oh, no, I did not. Good catch. Good catch, Mark Basket. Good to see you, Mark Basket. And yeah, so that concludes things over here on the YouTube side. And we will see you guys next time. It'll be the Shifty Sunday broadcast. So good night, everybody, and good fight. Should I
do the thing?
Hold on a second.
Do.
There we go.